Hello, and thanks for joining us for our weekly blockchain gaming news roundup, the blockchain gamer.biz. Today is Friday, the 2nd of August. I'm your host, Jenny Jordan, and with me is co-host John Jordan. Hi, John. How has your week been?
Hello. Yes, I just noticed I'm in Swedish colours or Ukrainian colours, depending on how you want to look at it.
You are indeed.
Very summary.
It is very summery. It's been a good summery week.
Winnie the Pooh t-shirt got its look out this week in the sun. So.
Okay, good. Right, let's go to this week's news. Anyway, a game developer and Moca brand's subsidiary has announced a Cosmic Bomber PvP action game. It's out exclusively for Mocaverse ID holders at the moment. It's beta launch, but will eventually be available for everybody, and it won't be like NFT gated, or you won't need a Mocaverse ID to play it then, the official launch. Manchester United has launched its fantasy football/soccer game on Tezos called Fantasy United, which kind of builds on this NFT collection that they launched in 2022 in partnership with Tezos. And then now with the game launched, they've also launched a new NFT collection with the kind of current season's players. But it's a traditional fantasy football game where you set up your squad of players, and then you earn points throughout the season depending on the player's real sort of life stats. So check that out. We have a lot of platforms and games that have launched their sort of rewards systems and quests and campaigns. As sort of, it's always happening. It's just been a lot this week. HyperPlay has launched its quest rewards platform with 25 games included so far. Gamer7 has launched its credits reward system. MetaCene has launched its Gold Rush rewards system on the Gold Rush is the game that they've launched on the Mantle blockchain. And Web3 gaming platform Earn Alliance has launched their rewards ahead of their TGE on the 24th of September. They will launch their Ali token, which was now as part of the rewards campaign. You can start earning, you can choose to take it out at the time of TG, or you can choose to stake it, sort of similarly to what we've seen other recent projects do. Sandbox has announced they have chosen Magic Eden, all the NFT marketplaces are there, so as its official NFT marketplace. And we're just talking about that as kind of it's OpenSea and Blur and kind of Magic Eden, the other big ones. But as has been the trend recently, really, most games are sort of they built their own marketplaces, haven't they? So in that sense, Sandbox is kind of going a little bit against the trend, I suppose. Well, but they've got, like you said, they've got their own marketplace as well, haven't they?
Yeah, so I mean, I think with the Sandbox, they have loads of these sort of, because obviously people can create little, in-game objects and stuff. That's one of the, it's a UGC platform. So all that stuff, that very low-level NFT stuff, happens sort of within the Sandbox sort of web page. So they have, within their web page, the web interface, they have a marketplace within that. Obviously, you can buy the stuff on, you can buy stuff on any platform that supports Polygon, I suppose. I think for this one, it's more about, when I looked at it, it was more about the land. So obviously the land are the sort of bigger, I mean, they're down, I mean, it's still about sort of a few $100, maybe $300-$400 for the land. So it seems to be, this is more about that's where you would sell the land. And I guess, if you're in the Sandbox, then you probably, you can buy land within the Sandbox itself. But if you're someone who's not involved in the Sandbox, then you might just want to buy land. And so, people, it seems like Magic Eden is sort of the place where people are doing gaming NFTs stuff sort of happens. And I guess the more interesting thing, they just sort of said that will be the place where they mint future NFTs. So whether that's more land or whether that's something else, I mean, I can't remember. They still have there was 166,000 lands in total, and they've not sold them all yet. So maybe they still got some lands to sell. So maybe this is more about sort of future positioning rather than sort of, because who cares what your official NFT marketplace is? It's irrelevant, really.
Yeah, and this week Ronin also announced they had hit 2 million daily active users, and we kind of looked into that to see where that was mainly coming from. And although Pixels users have sort of gone up again since their Chapter 2 launch in June, when they dropped like 69% of their daily active wallets due to kind of tackling bots. Seems like a lot of bots fell off, but now they're sort of growing again. Whether those are sort of real players or bots or a combination, they're up to about 750,000 players at the moment, I think. So it doesn't appear to be sort of a one game that's driving all this traffic on Ronin, but Carve has been played a major part in it, because they have like a token rewards campaign going at the moment, where like, for the forthcoming token, Carve token. And what else did you say? There was Aperon, they're having their Guild Wars tournament at the moment. But yeah, there's a lot of these sort of just campaigns to earn tokens, and not actually any game on Ronin that seems to be driving this traffic.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of careful what he says, but I think it's a bit weird. Obviously, sort of on-chain transactions are, on-chain transactions, and companies have the ability to sort of make them go up or down depending on sort of what they're offering. So it's not that they're completely sort of disconnected from them. But I'm a bit surprised that Ronin has gone. It looks like they've gone sort of fairly heavy on this number, and maybe that's because we've started to see that a bit more from sort of other platforms. And I mean, I guess Ronin and Immutable are sort of the obviously maybe are sort of rivals, and some of the Ronin people are particularly sort of spiky with Immutable on Twitter, and so there is a sort of, I don't know how serious a sort of grudge match it is, but there is sort of some sort of needle there, I expect. But yeah, I just think if I was running Ronin, which thankfully I'm not for everyone concerned, this would not be the stat I would go big on. Because as you say, when you look at it, it's it's. I mean, manipulated is again probably the wrong word. But if you look at the three main elements that are consisting of that 2 million, and there's about three of them that are all on about 700,000 daily active unique wallets at the moment. And one of those is Pixels, and obviously we know what's happened with Pixels. Obviously it's a I think it's a game that is the biggest blockchain game, and assuming the stuff on Telegram is you don't really count. But we've sort of seen, as you say, when it changed its reward structure, it lost 2/3 of its audience, like in 3 days, because they were all bots. So Pixels has sort of climbed back up again, and I don't think that's because the bots have gone away. It's because obviously when a reward structure changes, the bots have to be sort of programmed to show my lack of knowledge here. But the bots are told to do one thing, and if the thing they're doing isn't getting rewards, then they stop doing the bots, and then they have to sort of rework them. So that's sort of what's happening on Pixels. And there is the whole other thing with Pixels is, if you look at slightly more nuanced on-chain activity, you can sort of see there's a total sort of people who have logged into Pixels, and then there's another sort of metric which is people who have planted a seed. And obviously it's a farming game, so planting seeds is like the key sort of, if there's a shooter, it would be you've shot someone. It's a sort of a key mechanic of gaining underlying people who are actually doing something, and maybe bots can do that as well, I don't know, but that's much lower. That's sort of 300,000. So anyway, so Pixels is its own thing. We know what Pixels is, that's fine. Then the two other ones, Carve, as you point out, is a multi-chain reward system, and they're playing the whole sort of usual thing where they've had this long reward system for a while. It's going across different chains. You sort of go out and it tells you to do things. There's quests. You retweet stuff. As all these things, it's slightly unclear to me what Carve actually is beyond this. I mean, they say that we're a gaming AI node infrastructure, blah, the whole usual buzzword sort of soup that these things do, and they're going to do a node sale because that's what everyone does to make money. And why do you need nodes when there's all these other? But anyway, let's not go into that. So there's Carve, which is definitely not a game. It's sort of it is a reward system that's telling people to do stuff.
Another reward system.
Another reward system. So it's not to say that I would say that activity is irrelevant. But clearly, those sort of reward systems have even more bots than games, because it's very simple. That what it's asking you to do is very simple. Click and retweet and all that sort of stuff. And people, because it's not clear how the reward system works, I think those things are going to be really heavily botted, because maybe you're going to get tons of Carve tokens. So you can sort of see why, those are sort of things that if I was a bot farm guy, maybe I've got, again, very simplifying, I've got a certain number of bots, or a certain number of, much money I want to spend into sort of botting resources, botting games or whatever. I want to bot the thing that gives me the most rewards. So at the moment, Carve, I think, is a bit uncertain, but I can imagine there's a lot of bots in there. And then the other one that's really happened over the last week on Ronin is the Lumiterra sort of token drop. And so Lumiterra is this interesting MMORPG that's announced they're going to Ronin, and I think they've got a closed beta now or fairly soon. But what they've done is literally you go to the webpage and it goes sort of click here and collect some Lumiterra points, or whatever the point system is. And then it goes something like Lumiterra points equal ? Token. So they've not really said what it is, but obviously everyone's going, I can just go and click here and get some points, and that will give me some tokens. So again, that's got literally in a week, it's gone from 0 to 700,000 daily active unique wallets. Obviously, some of those are real people. Obviously, massive of those are bots, because we know. So I'm not saying bots are not. It's just we have to get to the grips now that everything successful in blockchain at the moment is going to be bots. And even in 10 years' time, the more value there is, the more bots are going to be. So it's a fact. It's a fact of life in this environment. But clearly, it's different to be saying if Pixels had gone to 2 million daily active unique wallets, then we know there's bots in there. But that's a sort of like that's pretty big. That's. But to say that Ronin's gone to 2 million on the basis of sort of Pixels and two things that we know are going to be heavily botted. At least the level of Pixels, and maybe 90% sort of level. That's fine. They're factually correct. That's what the data says. But that's not really the hill I would sort of die on in terms of we're building out this great ecosystem full of blockchain games. It's like, when Lumiterra goes live and people have to play it, and we know there'll be bots in there. If they get 700,000 people playing it, then that'll be cool. That'll be the biggest game or the second biggest game. And then Ronin will go, we've got the two biggest games, out there. But you can, and I'm not saying they've manipulated it at all, but clearly, allowing something like Carve, which personally I think is pretty, I wouldn't say scammy, but personally I think it's very low-level blockchain rewards. I would be amazed if something good comes out of that. I was surprised that Ronin allowed them to, Sky Mavis allowed them to come on Ronin, personally. Carve, just to kind of think, is really the lowest level of sort of on-chain activity you can get. So having that on there is just sort of irrelevant to your overall sort of data.
Mm-hmm. But so some developers don't really seem to think that bots are a problem. Is it that they see it more almost like a feature?
Well,
so would you go that far as to sort of maybe developers are going to go, we got this many unique wallets, but we estimate that so many are bots, and we're fine with that.
I mean, it's
a sort of ton games that that you were talking to a developer this week on news.
Yeah.
Kind of the more kind of Telegram and ton gaming is growing. Obviously, the more common or every day it's going to be that we just talk about bots probably as part of a game, as part of the ecosystem kind of thing.
I think for developers, this is a really knotty subject for them, and it's something, I've sort of been in blockchain games for 6 years or whatever, and it's something I've always sort of brought up with people who have very active games. So I guess back in the day it was Splinterlands, and then back in the day it was Alien Worlds, and and now sort of Pixels, and I think they are in a difficult quandary, that they know there's bots in there. I think we're still in a situation where having big numbers gets you attention, and people like to see ecosystems having growth and momentum, and investors certainly like that, and that's a sort of how can we make our token go up sort of thing. Well, big numbers is good. So it's sort of, even though they know there's bots, they don't want to maybe look, certainly publicly, they don't want to talk too much about it. And I think internally there are probably people in those companies who, are very aware of what level of bots they have. And I think different companies at different points in their growth cycle treat bots at different levels of seriousness. So I think most people do understand there's bots. They do have basic stuff to try and stop botting. I don't think we've got to a game. I've never heard of any game say we love bots and bots can do useful work in our blockchain game value ecosystem. And I think that's where you hope to get the fact that if people want to put bots in there, then that's really great, because there's somehow human players can do something that the bots can't do, or the bots bring something in that you sort of you can't do unless it's sort of like the developer is running AI NPCs in the background or something. I don't know. I mean, there's probably ways of doing it. I think what always happens, actually I wrote about this on my Substack yesterday, is at some point in the growth cycle, bots become more of a problem than they are, our numbers are going up, isn't that great? So the game that's dealing with this at the moment, I mean, lots of games are probably dealing with it at the moment, but the game that's really dealing with it at the moment is
go in really nicely into this. Well,
it's not actually. It's a different one. So this is Pirate Nation. So Pirate Nation is a fully on-chain game running on its own ecosystem, the Apex chain running on Arbitrum. Very smart guys, raised $33 million from A16Z and all the big investors. Used to work at Zynga, ran Farmville, invented Farmville. Really know what they do. And they have this fully on-chain game, and they launched their token. And running up to the token, they had a token airdrop thing. So it's sort of a bit annoying that you can't see the raw data of how many DAUs they've got, because of the way they bundle transactions into their own blockchain. But I think it's sort of, they're quoting they have about 3 million transactions a day, and it's a fully on-chain game, so everything you do is a transaction. So depending on what you're doing in the game, an individual might be doing 10, 20, 30 transactions in the day. But they've got to the stage now where there's just so much demand, just so many users trying to get into their game, that they've had to basically put in a wait list, a queue. So basically, if you want to play the game, you end up in a queue, and that queue is up to 1 to 2 hours long, which is clearly not what they want.
It's really annoying. No.
But equally, they're just like, if we let everyone in, we just our infrastructure cannot take that. So they're having to. They were always going to go multi-chain, which basically have multiple chains that link together in a clever way. They've not done that engineering work yet, so they weren't prepared for it, and just the level of success they've had has caused problems for them. For people who just want to play the game like you can't get in, and then now you don't play the game. But bots don't care. The bots will sit in the queue for 2 hours. So they've sort of come up with this situation where they've almost like, encouraging bots to play and humans not to play, which is not good in the long term. So they're having to deal with that. I didn't really understand it. They allowed people to have multi accounts. So they allowed individual people to have set up more than one account, which generally you don't sort of want to do, because that just causes problems, and that makes it easier for bots, I think. So they're stopping that now. I think that's what I don't quite know why they allowed it in the first place, but that might give them some sort of might help them out a little bit. But they basically going through a few months of sort of re-engineering their entire sort of blockchain strategy for the long term. And again, they're like, we're going to incentivize our reward system so it works to people who are playing on one account and who are not bots. And it's sort of a little bit like, well, why didn't you think about that at the beginning? And probably the thing was, at the beginning we just wanted to get the game out, and we didn't have that many bots, so it didn't really, the bots weren't a problem. Now they've got a live token that's actually doing quite well. And obviously, that's probably, if I was a bot farmer, I go, let's spend a bit of engineering kind of thought working out how to bot, Pirate Nation, because that looks like it's one of the best games out there. So I think that's sort of what happens.
You're not causing anyone to start driving a lot of bot traffic to Pirate Nation.
Don't know that really. And it sort of plays back to what you thought I was going to say, which is talking about Blocklords Dynasty, which is another game, fully on-chain game on the base blockchain, that's really blown up in the last week, 2 weeks really. Even though the reward system is it's sort of a bit weird, the reward system's the main juicy bit of the reward airdrop is sort of finished actually. But anyway, that's again now doing about 3 million transactions a day, I think. So sort of on a similar level to Pirate Nation. I mean, they say they've done 1 million unique wallets and doing about 500,000 unique wallets a week. It looks like it's doing about 200,000, just under 200,000 unique wallets a day. I've been playing it, and I got banned. So my account got banned, which is a big shock to me because I used a VPN. That's the only thing I was doing, but it's VPN in my own country, so it's sort of wasn't doing anything dodgy at all. Wasn't using multiple accounts. Wasn't basically bought NFTs and played the game. And I had a bit to and fro. It took a couple of days to get unbanned. And they wouldn't tell me what I'd done. They just said you have violated our violated our rules, or whatever. But I don't know what that was. And so I think for a developer, basically the problem becomes is you have bots, and then you start to go right. Let's put in some anti-bot measures, and they sort of like pick up the really obvious bots. And you can obviously look at IP addresses. And I know in the past people have like banned entire countries, like Indonesia is banned because there's so many bots coming from there, whatever. So you can sort of do some basic things, but then the more you start to try and ban bots, the more you end up banning real users who, for some reason, I don't know why my VPN would have picked it up, or I can't think of anything else it would have been. You start banning real users, and real users get pretty annoyed. I'd bought like 30 NFTs. I spent about $300. Of course you're going to get annoyed. You can be like, and particularly if you haven't done anything. So then your support costs go up because everyone's emailing your support team saying, "Why have you banned me?" And it becomes like a nightmare. So you can see why people aren't too aggressive about banning bots because when you cross that line, then it becomes like a massive annoying the people who actually are playing your game. So it's a very fine line, I think. In gaming, it's a fine line, and in blockchain gaming, when people have assets, you have to be really careful. So I think that's why in the end developers just go, "Oh, stuff it. Let's just go with the raw on-chain data." We've got 2 million DAUs or whatever, and they sort of, when you ask about bots, they sort of look. They sort of smile internally and just sort of look at you and go, bots? Because that's sort of what I know some of these developers fairly well, and that's sort of, they just almost like mentally, they can't engage with that conversation. They don't want to go there. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have to look at obviously what sort of game it is as well. So we've discussed this in the past. So I asked you how many you think, like Boomlands Hunters on Chain, who are also currently having their rewards campaign running. But you don't think that sort of game would attract the same level of bots. Obviously, it's kind of simple tap games on Telegram. So if you would estimate, say, the level of bots on kind of Telegram, you've said previously it's kind of 90, closer to 99 maybe % of bots.
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah. So I've always said on Telegram, I basically every number I see I divide by 100. That's my gut feeling on that, which is sort of like a little bit of a meme sort of throwaway thing. But I was talking to someone who's building out stuff on Telegram, and sort of their thing was, well, even if 90% of bots, it's still an order of magnitude bigger than anything else. So even someone building on Telegram saying, well, even if I assume 90% of bots, then that's sort of my assumption. So I agree with you that there are some. I think the one thing is you can make it harder for bots. The way you design your reward system when it comes to tokens, the way you design your gameplay, you can't get rid of bots clearly, and you can't say again.
They're inevitable.
No, and in some cases people say, well, there's bots which are just purely computerized systems, or you find people in the Philippines or Indonesia, and you just pay them $1 a day to play your game. And we've all seen those pictures of people with 100 phones, and they're sort of going around pressing or tapping on the things. So I mean, those are obviously those are bots as well. They just have to be human bots. So, but there are ways and means, I think, that you can make it harder. And I just kind of think for most games, people starting out, that's just not a priority when they're starting out, and you just want to get something out, and there's so many other things you want to do. Bots are sort of like I often start writing articles. Bot to have a lot of bots is a sort of measure of success, because it suggests you've got something valuable that people want to extract value from. So bots maybe in the developer's head are sort of a secondary problem until they become the primary problem, because they distort your whole game economy.
No, yeah, that's good. Helpful. Right, on that note, we are going to finish off for today. And thank you all for listening. We'll see you all next week. Have a good week.
All right.
Bye-bye.